We're trying to do the things that we need to do to strengthen America.
It's Sunday, August the 16th. Welcome back to Closer Look. I'm Scott Sexsmith-Frisco, away on assignment again this week. Every day, the number gets higher. At last count, more than 100,000 people have signed an online petition demanding the removal of Donald Trump's ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. The petition, which will be presented in the House of Commons this fall, calls on the federal government to declare Hoekstra persona non grata and remove him from Canada. The petition accuses the ambassador of making statements that undermine the Canada-U.S. relationship and of intervening in Canadian political discourse in a manner inconsistent with diplomatic protocol. Last year, shortly after he took over as Trump's man here in Canada, Hoekstra joined our podcast for a wide-ranging conversation about tariffs, friendship, and all the rhetoric about Canada becoming the 51st state. Amid all the headlines about the petition, we're going to revisit parts of that conversation on this week's episode of Closer Look.
I don't want to turn the conversation sour right away, but I'm sure you've been asked a lot about the 51st state comments from other Canadians that you've met in the time you've done this job. Where did that come from then? And have we passed that discussion?
I am. I've told people I don't talk about it, so I'm not really going to talk about it with you either, other than, saying, when you're working for Donald Trump, okay, and you can see the urgency with which this president has been moving through the first, half year of his presidency. We need to get to results. The results and the mandate have been clearly laid out for us as diplomats around the world. We need to, do everything that we can to improve the prosperity of the American people, prosperity of our allies, but the focus as an American diplomat is the prosperity for America, safety for Americans, and our security. And so those are the things that I am focused on. I ask myself the question, if we're talking about the 51st state, am I improving the prosperity of Americans or Canadians? Am I improving the safety or security of either one of our countries? The answer is no. So thanks. You guys can talk about it tomorrow for 20 minutes if you'd like, about how, boy, that American ambassador was really evasive on that issue. So you can have that discussion tomorrow. I'm not focused on it. We recognize that there's an ecosystem that is developed because of, continuing improvements in trade relationships that have tied our borders together. You're from Ontario. I'm from Michigan. We've got we not only have trade between the U.S. and Ontario and Canada, we have an ecosystem, especially like in automotive, right? I mean, this is not, we'll sell you. We got an ecosystem that says you build something in Ontario in the morning, in the afternoon, it could be on a car going to a dealership or to a customer. That's not trade. That's an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. You're definitely right using that term. We do have that ecosystem. It's been in place for a long time. You talked about auto parts crossing the border multiple times before something is built. But is it fair to say that the tariffs in a lot of ways have drastically altered that ecosystem? There's a lot of industries in Canada that are suddenly all of a sudden hurting really very, very badly, Ambassador. The steel industry, the aluminum industry, the forestry industry. So it has had a major impact on those industries. From where you're sitting, how do you react to that? What do you say to those industries?
Well, number one, the tariffs. Okay, everybody wants to blame everything on the tariffs. Mm-hmm. Okay, the effective tariff rate of Canadian goods going into the U.S., again, as outlined by your government, not the U.S. claiming something, is around 5.5%. Okay, that's not a huge number. We had to do the stuff on steel, aluminum, copper, and some of these types of things because the president wants our country to be secure. And we need the capability to produce those kinds of products in the United States There have been opportunities and, to negotiate that and move that forward the Canadian government right now is talking about, well, maybe we can get smaller sector agreements on those things. But again, for those 4 or 5 items that fall under what we call Section 232 in American law, those tariffs have been put in place on every country in the world because we think we made some not so bright decisions in terms of how we would develop and make sure that we maintain those industries.
I don't know if you've seen our Ontario Premier Doug Ford is very vocal about speaking out against some of the moves by the Trump administration, has talked openly about wanting to sit down with President Trump. Have you ever had a chance to meet with Doug Ford?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, Doug's a great guy. He gave me one of your slightly odd-shaped Canadian footballs. Okay. And no, we had he brought in a couple of the parliamentarians that serve in the provincial parliament, Dutch heritage from around the Niagara region.
Mm-hmm.
They brought me some Dutch pastries. Diana and I loved it. So no, I've had the opportunity to talk with Doug, and of course, I mean it being part of the Trump administration, it's kind of like. I watch what happens in the media. I watch what Doug says, as does the Trump administration, and they're a very media savvy bunch.
Mm-hmm. Everyone's wondering if he brought you a bottle of Crown Royal, but I won't ask you that. Can you tell us any more details about your meeting with Premier Ford? Did anything come out of it? Was anything accomplished from your meetings with him?
Well, it was early in my tenure here, and we've had the opportunity since then to talk about a couple of different issues. And obviously, Doug is on a different page than where the U.S. administration is, and so So no, I haven't moved Doug to a point where I can get him to be a strong advocate for the Canadian-American relationship.
Ambassador, Canadians are traveling a lot less to the United States. Does that concern you?
Sure. I mean, what they do is they just don't get to see a wonderful part of the world. I enjoyed, Diana and I have enjoyed traveling through Canada. And like I said, I sometimes have a little bit of a hard time understanding this, okay? You have the best trade relationship of anybody in the world, the best trade tariff rate of anybody in the world. And we're, in the coming days, we're going to see that the process is going to evolve to, reviewing, USMCA. Okay. Does banning American alcohol, does that help? Does saying, we're not going to America, does that help? Those are decisions for Canadians on an individual basis, to make. Okay. We're doing everything we can to strengthen this relationship, to grow this relationship. If you have an ecosystem, and we know how long it took to develop this ecosystem. But if Canada decides that, from an economic and manufacturing standpoint, that ecosystem is no longer valuable to Canada and to the economy of Canada, that's okay. I think it would be hard to recreate that ecosystem. And there would be significant hardship as you transfer from that to try to create a new one. But again, that's a decision that is made by a sovereign state.
I think the concern we hear from Canadians is all the sudden uncertainty of it all. So we have this deal in place, but then we're hearing this one day there'll be a 50% tariff added to this industry, a 25% tariff added to that industry. How do we move forward from that, Ambassador? How do we make a deal that brings back some certainty to Canadians and the Canadian industries that employ them?
Well, how do you bring back a deal that brings back certainty to America? Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a lot of American companies that have contacted me and say, hey, Pete, we've been trying to sell into a certain province. Okay. But they've not only put in buy, Canadian, which is fine. We have buy American provisions. I voted for those when I was in Congress. Mm-hmm. Okay. But, their criteria is buy provincial, buy Canadian, buy international. And if you, and if you still haven't found a source, maybe you don't need to buy. And as a last resort, buy American. Mm-hmm. If you really, 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 really need it, but you can't find it anywhere else, it's okay to buy America. Okay, that's some of the kind of stuff that we hear and feel. Is it the vast majority of what we hear? Absolutely not. The vast majority of businesses that we talk to are saying, yeah, Pete, we listen to all this noise, and yes, some of this does affect us. But we're still doing a lot of business with America, and you're doing a lot of business with us, and it's been a great relationship, and we want it to continue. Take care of the noise, settle this, and let's move forward. It is an awesome relationship, and I want to be an advocate not only for America, but I want to be an advocate for Canada to America. We're looking for folks in Canada right now that can and I think should be. They should be advocates for Canada because you're Canadians. But at the same time, it would be nice to see more folks who are actually advocates for America. Okay? Donald Trump has given you the best deal of any country in the world. We have the framework and the opportunity to not only take a great relationship and make it much better. Okay. But again, I think that's true. That's what we would like to see. Whether that's what Canada wants or not, that's for your political leaders to decide. Being anti-American, I might as well get in trouble, right? We want to create a little bit of news today, okay? Otherwise, it'll be why should we watch these guys? They never make any news, I'm a politician. I spent 18 years, trying to get enough votes every 2 years to get reelected to Congress. Why I did that, I don't know. People sometimes will question my sanity, but I did that for 18 years, and I recognize that a lot of people in Canada, way too many, have made being anti-American good politics, mm-hmm. being anti-Donald Trump being good politics. The only thing that I would lay out there for people to consider, when I ran for office, we always said good politics is good policy. Mm-hmm. Or good policy, excuse me, I got that backwards. Good policy is good politics. All right? Maybe that's something that we should all focus on. Let's do good policy so that that ends up being good politics, because that will bring prosperity, security, and safety to our countries. And we will have more of that if we do it together rather than doing it separately.
Can I just follow up on that, Ambassador, real quickly? I think, do you and the Trump administration understand that I think some of that anti-Americanism or frustration with America is because of the tariffs that have come in place in the last few months, all the uncertainty they brought, the job losses they've triggered, things like that. That's what's triggering the Buy a Canadian movement, for example.
Right.
No. You've got the best trade deal, okay? Other countries are dealing with this and have dealt with it in different ways. We've got new agreements with the EU. We've got new agreements with Japan. We've got new agreements with South Korea. We've got the EU. We got the UK. We've worked through that. You continue to still have a better tariff deal than any of these countries in the world today. Is there uncertainty? Yes, but it would have been negligent on the part of American leadership to not address the problems that we faced. We had a long-term issue in terms of ensuring prosperity for the American people, a long-term issue with security and safety. And if the Canadians want to be mad about us addressing, the internal issues that we had, they can do that. But in the long run, North America, the West, and all of that will be in a stronger position if we have a strong America, rather than if we had an America that was collapsing and having a debt crisis or unable to, deal with the military threats out there because we just couldn't produce the things that we needed to produce. We saw this, I witnessed this when I was in the Netherlands. Okay. NATO was totally unprepared to deal with Russia. And what happened? Donald Trump raised the alarm on that for 4 years. And NATO laughed at Donald Trump, and NATO laughed at the United States of America. And as soon as Donald Trump was out of office, Russia invaded Ukraine. That is what weakness in America, and that is what weakness in the West will get you. We are fighting for a strong America. We are rebuilding America to be respected and strong. And I believe the West, and particularly Canada, because we share a 5,000-mile border, we have these ecosystems in place. Those ecosystems can grow and benefit Americans and Canadians. We've created lots of wealth on both sides of the border because of this relationship. Give us a break, not because we're trying to do the things that we need to do to strengthen America.
That's our show for this week. As always, we appreciate your time each and every Sunday. Be sure to follow us on our social channels, subscribe and watch back episodes at closerlookpodcast.ca, and reach out anytime at closerlook@villagemedia.ca. Today's show, as always, produced by Zach Trunzo. And for everyone who makes Closer Look possible each and every week, thanks for watching. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you next time right here on Closer Look.
Briscoe & Scott's wardrobe provided in part by Moore's Clothing for Men.